I also should say I've learned a little bit about your history, and the Netherlands has been here before. Like from 1622 to 1662, we have been the ruling party here in Taiwan, and I'm sure it was not very much good use for wetlands that we actually got food on the land here, because the Netherlands is a people that had already lived for more than 2,000 years in wetlands at that time, and there was already quite some experience with large-scale conversion of wetlands into agricultural land. And I must say that has also paid off, because still we are the second exporter of agricultural goods in the world. So in these former wetlands, still a lot of food is being produced. But since 50 to 100 years, we are looking at wetlands in the Netherlands with different eyes, and also see the value of the natural wetlands and all the ecosystem services they have, and know much better what we've lost. And we are trying to restore, and that's what my talk today is about. I will take you to two different projects in our country where we are trying to restore wetlands, especially in the context of future climate change, because the Netherlands is a very vulnerable country. More than half is below sea level, and we know the sea level is rising and our land is sinking. That's a very wrong combination, so we have to act. And it's not always easy, because I'm a biologist myself. I've been working on wetlands, mostly on nutrient cycling, plant-soil interactions. But for these projects, I've actually been reaching out to stakeholders, because the only way to implement knowledge that scientists collect is to reach out to people who are making decisions and who are doing the actual land use planning. I did this together with Ron Jansen from the University of Amsterdam, and he is a totally different scientist because he is a spatial economist. So the combination of us two has worked very well, and we have had projects for 15 years now, which has been quite a nice experience for both of us. I will go with you to two different projects that are different in timing. The first one is in about 2008 it was ended, and the second one is just finished a few years ago. And they are also in different parts of the Netherlands, because the first project is in a little bit higher lands that are above sea level, where we have sandy soils and rolling hills and streams. And the second part is really in the western part, which is maybe most famous to you, where we are below sea level and have peatlands used for farming. In both cases, there is also a sponsor that has made the research possible. The first one is the EU. Euro Impacts was a big European project, where we were actually forced to go to the stakeholders. That was one of the requirements, and has helped us to actually start doing this. The second project is a Dutch project, Knowledge for Climate. It's just finished. It was 50 million euros of money to do scientific research to make the Netherlands climate proof. And that's not only for natural resources, but also for the national airport, cities, etc. The second project is part of this big program. So let's see how things operate in our country. We have regional governments, and most of these decisions are being made on spatial planning by the regional authorities. And we have two different regional authorities. I will explain that a bit later. We have the provinces responsible for land use and infrastructure, and we have the water authorities. That's maybe especially for the Netherlands. We call them waterschappen or waterships. They are really powerful bodies who are planning that we don't have wet feet, and also that there's always enough water. And also there is also water quality in our country. So the discussions in both projects were among these stakeholders of regional governments, the water boards and the province, but also nature conservation agencies, people from agriculture. Very important to involve them as well, because they mostly own all the land. So you cannot do very much without them. And also people from recreation. So what can we do? We can actually provide spatial information to inform the stakeholders of how their area is composed in terms of soils, hydrology, land use, elevation, topography. And also we can come up with predictions. So what will happen if the climate change scenarios that our National Institute for Meteorology has calculated, when they will become reality? What will happen with water levels, with rain, for the next 50 to 100 years? We know it's all going to be much more extreme as everywhere in the world. And then we can come up with options for a different management of water and land to see if we can meet the challenges that we will meet. And then more and more in the second project I will show that we can use fancy electronic equipment where all this information can be combined and displayed, and we can calculate at the spot. That is of course much powerful if you have ideas from people that you can immediately see what the consequences of these ideas will be. So the first project is in the catchment of a river, the Dikkel River, in the eastern part of the Netherlands, in the sandy area, where we have rolling hills, where the water board, mostly the water board is ringing the bell, because they are having to meet the criteria of the European Water Framework Directive in terms of water quality and water quantity, and they are challenged by all the changes that are going to happen because of climate change. And previous flooding events already in the areas had worried them, and they were thinking that in the future this could only be worse and worse. And this was one of these typical workshops. I already explained that with the stakeholders indicated here. And this is indicating where this is. This is the Netherlands, and the yellow area here is the eastern part, and that's all sandy soils. And then the western part here you see clay, that's the dark green, and the pink is peat. And so you see that this is the below sea level part mostly, and this is definitely above sea level. So this is the Dikkel catchment. The Dikkel is an interesting river because it is a river which is still meandering, and that's very rare now in the Netherlands. Most of our rivers and streams have been straightened to maximize the water flow, to get rid of the water all the time. And why is this one still meandering? It's because there is a canal bypassing the river. This canal takes most of the water, and this stream is still in its original shape, which is very nice to begin with. So this part is very important in my talk. It's called Ottershagen, and this used to be a large floodplain area with a lot of nature quality, which was only drained very late in the 1950s. And my major professor, where I studied, he was a botanist, and he even wrote poems about this particular area because he found it so beautiful because of the plant diversity. So it's, I don't know where my little light is still blinking at this area in the circle. And it all was lost during, he wrote a poem, and 2 years later it was all gone. So this area may be restored in the future. So that is an opportunity for restoring nature and also for restoring flood storage, which is a very important commodity to have in this particular area. So we discussed with the stakeholders 3 different management options, and that's our strategy mostly for these activities. Give the stakeholders all an opportunity to make their dream. So what would be your dream for this area if you would have to decide what happens. So the agricultural people, they would then increase the area where there is dairy production, so cows and milk. That's the light green area here. The dark green area is forest. These are towns. And the orange area is fields, agricultural fields. Nature connected, the nature conservation people were asked to really, especially for the Ottershagen area, to depict what would be the most optimal situation for biodiversity, for restoration of biodiversity. And the water boards, they actually were playing with the bypass canal, because there is a structure here that divides the water through the river and the canal, and we can actually adjust it. We can put more water through this river. And they have been thinking about that. The blue that you see is a 1 in 100-year flooding area of this river. And they were playing with the idea to do that more often. And then also to create an area here, this Ottershagen area, where there would be a much larger area that could be used for flood storage. So this gives you a little bit more picture, which is a little bit more detailed. Here you see what the nature people came up with. This pink striped area is an area where you have nice streams. They are still in good shape. And this is the area that would be restored as a floodplain here, the yellow area. And there are some other details that I'm not going to talk about. But it's important to identify this area as a source of plant species to maybe connect to the area here. That would be the restored area. So if we could connect these two areas, that would really help. And this is a more close picture to this, of this liberated Dinkel alternative. So we started working on the questions: could we make the water system in this whole area more robust so that it could cope with climate change? Can we enhance nature conservation? Can we also enhance water quality in the area? And the restoration, especially of this last Ottershagen area, that is what I'm going to emphasize the most. So this is a picture of the floodplains of this river. Here, restoration is already in place. And this is how we were interacting with the stakeholders in the farm. The farmer also has a by-activity. He rents his living room for workshops, which is kind of nice. Gives a nice atmosphere to do the talking. And you see here people working with the maps that I just showed and discussing heavily about the various opportunities. And even then, in 2006, 2007, we already had such a map table which was electronic. It was still a little bit in its infancy at the time. We mostly still worked with paper maps, but it still worked, no problem. Because here you see again a little detail of this Ottershagen area before we started talking. And it is the talking about about this nature connection alternative. And sorry, I'm going to skip this because I just already explained this. But this is the map how it looked after we had been discussing it. So the stakeholders have been adding more detail. They have given areas here that are buffer zones along the streams. They also were identifying more streams that were important. We had not even anticipated that, but these people know the area much better than you do, so they come up with more detailed plans. And they thought also that it was very important to connect this area with this area. That would be really helpful. So then we started to combine the different alternatives. So here you see the same map again, together with this liberated Dinkel map, and this is the final map that we actually came up with. To decide, as scientists also wanted to make publications. That's always what we are actually, if we don't do that, we finally lose out. published or perished. So we were able to come up with a new concept in landscape ecology, exemplified by this particular area, the operational landscape units, where we actually combined the transports of water and the transports of biota. So these are both transports that are laterally occurring between ecosystems, and both are very important when you do restoration projects. So to get these flows in landscape right is very important. So we actually were able to have a publication in the Journal of Applied Ecology about this, and I will show you in the next picture how the operational landscape unit in this particular area looked like finally after our discussions. And you can all read about it much more in this paper. I have no time to read go into details, but here the important thing is we have the source area here and the sink area here, and the delineated area is the area that we defined as being important to restore. So it's not only the area here which is important, but this is also a very potentially good area for nature restoration. And we came up with this delineation by combining the pink, which is the flooding, 1 in 100-year flood of the river, which will become a little bit more frequent in the future. And also you see, this is the old map of the area of the 1900s, early 1900s. And on the old map you can still see where there were wetlands in the past. So to restore wetlands, it's always good to see where they were in former times. And these two things together have helped us to identify these boundaries. It is nice that we have been approached by people from San Francisco Bay, the San Joaquin River. They are restoring wetlands in the San Francisco Bay, and they are using now this same concept for their restoration activities. So I think that the map we produced was seen by all stakeholders as a step forward. The farmers were a bit reluctant. You know, it's difficult for them to give up their land, and they were stressing that there are some areas that they could easily miss because they are not productive anyway and they cannot get to dry, so let's make them into a wetland. But also they were asking for compensation. So if they have to give up land, they have to be paid, or they have to get land back for that. And that's still now not resolved. So we do have all these nice ideas. We have now buffer zones along these lakes, so it has already paid off in a way, but the Ottoshagen area is not restored yet. So there's still planned. We don't know what the future will bring. So there was quite some momentum during these meetings. So now I'm going to the second example. Now we go to the western part of the Netherlands, and we have a subsidence problem. I heard yesterday one of the talks by the former minister, I think his name would be, that you have also a subsidence problem here in Taiwan very much. And he explained that it was mostly because of the water that was drained away, and then the soil really compacts. But that's not the only problem we have, because the soil does compact if you drain away the water, but also the peat is being decomposed, so you lose it. Actually, the peat is going to be CO2 and water. And so we have two problems. The soil sinks and you produce a lot of carbon dioxide. So this is bad. So we have to do something with that. It has existed already for centuries, but now in the past 20 years, drainage has become deeper because technology is growing better and better. And also the climate is warming. So, yeah, the regional authorities thought that we have to do something to this because the farmers are now free to do what they want. And this has some limits. And they wanted really the regional governments wanted a perspective. What will happen in 50 years? What will happen in 100 years to this area? We are already below sea level. So we have with 3 universities assisted with knowledge in the framework of the Knowledge for Climate project. And this area is right here in Friesland, in the pink area of the peatlands there. But you could also translate it to areas here, where we also all have dairy agriculture on peat, which is sinking. Let's go back for a minute to 2,000 years ago. And you can see how we started the wetlands. The wetlands were still all there. And you can now definitely see that the whole western part was wetlands. And the most surprising thing for me when I saw this map for the first time was that most of them were bogs. That means that they were really raised peatlands with a peat layer of 6 meters minimally. And the light brown areas are fens, which have thinner peat and are fed by the river and groundwater. We do have lots of floodplains as well, and we do have salt marshes and mudflats. So that's at this point, 2,000 years ago, people already lived in Friesland on mounds. It was also mentioned yesterday that people lived on mounds here too. But now, this is the current peat cover that we have left. And none of this peat is still peat forming. It's all losing peat. All these soils are drained and mostly used for agriculture. And we do have areas that have still very thick peat layers. So the future will be, they will probably sink further. And from the air, these areas mostly look like this. Many drainage ditches that take away the water to the streams. The farms are all on one side of this agricultural area. In the old days, each farm had only one strip of land. Very narrow, very long. Not now, of course, anymore, but that was how they started. That's why every strip of land has a house. That's where the farmer lived, and that one piece of land was he owned. That was very important. That for the first time in the 12th, 13th century, people were allowed to own land. So this is the summary of what happened. It starts in the year 1000, and you see that in 1,000 years the sea level has risen, and the land level started out to be 2 meters above sea level. These peatlands were all perfectly above sea level. But man started to drain, and then the land subsides, and this is when the windmill was invented. And then we were able to drain much deeper, because we were pumping all the water away. And then you see that the subsidence goes much more rapidly. And now, on average, these western areas are 2.5 meters below sea level, and there are areas as deep as minus 7.5 meters below sea level. It is not a good picture, because we know in the future sea level rise will increase in rate, and the coastal subsidence will also increase in rate because of climate change. So it is a dangerous situation. We have to do something. Sorry. Still, it is an area which is really important for people. It's very densely populated. There's lots of agriculture, and all the water areas that are there are very densely used for recreation. But this also brings opportunities, because these people want to use this area, and they can be convinced if something has to change. It is also an area that is locally very beautiful. It has nature reserves with waterfowl and wetlands, and you can see even in the areas where you have grasslands, some of the grasslands are also intensively used, and many meadow birds. So biodiversity in these areas is really high. This is giving you a perspective of the rate of subsidence, and it shows that it is depending on the water level you have. If you have a drainage of minus 35 meters, you have the top graph. If you have minus 70 centimeters, sorry, not meters. You have this graph here. So you can see that it's almost linearly related to the drainage depth. And the other feature of this is that you can see the dry years. In the dry years, subsidence is much more rapid than in the wet years. And we will have more dry years in the future. We are sure it already happens. And this results in predictions coming out of the climate scenarios that we will have less precipitation, more evaporation. We need more water to supply to these boulders because we don't want them to dry out. Water levels will go down 15 centimeters and the subsidence will increase over the coming 50 years, 60%. So the Frisians came up with 3 scenarios. It's actually the province who started this whole exercise, and they already were thinking of 3 different scenarios to work with in this exercise. So Verhoeven, the Dutch people here, I was promising one Dutch line, know what this means. This is as usual, this is the way Frisians say this. Parallel tracks means that you have different areas in the total region where different solutions can be chosen. And novel pathways is that you are totally going a different way. Let's stop drainage, let's make wetlands again. So just agriculture goes away and we make a nice marsh. So the measures that we were mostly keen on was keep the water level high without losing productivity, because it was obvious that these farmers often drain too deep. It's not very good because they don't need that, because they want to be sure that it's not wet. That's why they keep it so low. So we were looking at the possibilities to at least make these subsidence slower. And well, reinventing a novel land use and crops, also thinking about maybe grass species of wetlands that would be grown. There are some of these so-called temperate rice. It's not temperate rice, but it is a grass which can be, where the grains can be eaten. So there are 3 different areas in the province that were used as examples, where one is thick peat, the other one is thin peat, and there is also a clay over peat example. So here we have this very fancy equipment now. You can compare it with a very big iPad. It has a touch screen and it has a very powerful computer running in the background. So people can, with their fingers, identify an area where they can implement a different water table, a different land use, and then the computer will calculate what that would mean for agricultural productivity, for subsidence, maybe for nature values. So this has been a very, very rewarding exercise, because first the stakeholders already correct what you have, because they say, no, this boundary is different than you have on this map. I live there, I know. So that's already an advantage. And then most of these people did not know what was happening. So they were shocked when they heard that their soil was sinking so rapidly. So they were also agreeing that something needed to be done. And that's very important to have that recognition. And you see people of the water boards and of farmers also on the board here. We are again, we are now working in a village where we have a common village house where we can do this. So you can see that not in all of these areas the peat is still very thick. This is really thin. And this is an example of the outcome. These are the 3 areas that we visited, or that we worked on. And you see all these parcels have a color. And the darker the color, the faster the subsidence. And the other thing you see that in each of these parcels there is also a dot. And the dot is the subsidence in 50 years from now. So you see that in most of these parcels, the future subsidence is more rapid, quite more rapid than the current subsidence. And you can see that a bit better in this picture. You see the different parcels of agricultural land and the colors of the dots, which give the prediction for over 50 years. So, what happens with the peat? Well, in 2050, all the red areas have no peat left. The peat has sunk to the sand. So that is maybe reassuring. We can never sink deeper. So that is a boundary. But still, there are areas which have a very thick peat layer where we don't hit that point home. And the situation is even more dramatic if you see it in 2100. So here, this is a particularly interesting area because the workshop was here on a farm and we are now in the stable. And I didn't take a picture, unfortunately, but behind us there are cows in the stable. So it was quite a nice setting for our workshop there. And the possibilities of that we had now was that for one area we could work with find very different solutions. So higher ditch levels in all the blue area here resulted in less subsidence. You can see that the dots become lighter in the areas where there is a higher water table. So this would still be suitable for farming, but then we have less subsidence and also less CO2 produced. And this is a more wild idea. This area is converted into a wetland. And then you see that subsidence stops. And that's of course, so you can reach, if you want to do it, it is possible. So this all resulted within this big project, Knowledge for Climate, in a manual that we put online for everybody who is working with this to have knowledge about how to do this. And there are different steps. So you have to first identify in your particular area what bottlenecks do you have and what are the requirements. Are there any policies in place that you have to take into account, that you have to obey? What kind of measures are possible and what combination of measures would result in various outcomes? So this is something that is available now for stakeholders. Well, how did this come out? The province and the water board were very happy with the result because they had started all this. And they finally thought that for the province, the option parallel tracks would be the best. That for some areas, it's only a very moderate response, and in other areas, they are going to do dramatic changes. They will now try out what will happen when we rewet the whole thing into wetlands. So that's something very nice. And cost-benefit analysis by economists are being done. And the water board was very happy that they now have a perspective what the situation in the province will be in the 50 years to come. So that they know when they have to build a new pumping station. When do they have to increase dikes somewhere? So they now know when to invest and at what moment that will be needed. So they are much better informed for the future. And yeah, so that's about weirs, pumping stations, extra levies, and costs of drainage. And the government of the province of Friesland has now adopted the Veenweide, the peat meadow policy plan, which was also accepted by the provincial parliament. I must say that it has been really important to involve also the administrators. So not only the knowledge workers of the province and the water board, but also the people right at the top. You have to invite them to come along to the workshop so that they see what's happening. Because they are making the decisions. So the knowledge workers can come up with a nice plan, but if then the top says, well, you're not going to do it, that's it. So it's very important to have them on board. And yeah, we can say that in this particular case in Friesland, they have been very, very cooperative. Okay, so that's all for now. Thank you very much.